I'm going to show you the correct order of makeup for beginners. This is a great video if you're unsure as to where each product goes and why you apply it in a certain way. But I'm also going to be sharing with you how to change it depending on the look you're going for too. So let's head straight into this video. As you can see, I have nothing on my face. So we're going to start with skincare because obviously that is the base of all bases. We all start with skincare first. I'm going to be applying my Rhode Glazing Milk, and my skin is a little bit dehydrated at the moment because I've just got back from Switzerland. You might actually be able to tell from my voice as well because I don't know what's going on. I just feel like I'm just a bit run down, and also like I just keep getting ill. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think I've given myself a chance to actually relax. So I do need a bit of extra hydration because I was literally on a glacier. Like the cold weather was just, I mean, it's just from one extreme to the other because obviously it's so hot here. So next what I'm gonna be doing is putting my Rhode Peptide Glazing Fluid. This is just gonna give me that extra burst of hydration, and peptides are just absolutely amazing. Now we really wanna make sure we've let that kind of like sink into the skin, and I feel like my skin has literally just kind of soaked up all that hydration immediately. So I'm gonna go straight in with this. Smooth this over. Honestly, if you have hydrated your skin properly, your face, everything is going to sit so well on it. So make sure you do hydrate properly because it really does make a difference to the way that your makeup looks. While we're letting that sink into the skin, I'm going to put my eye cream on. I'm using my Drunk Elephant Ceramide AF Balm, and this is one of my favorite eye creams. And I'm just gonna put this around my eye area. At this point, I put on my kind of lip prep, and my lip prep is my Dual Lip Maximizer because it plumps up my lips. It plumps up my lips just a little bit, but also it really does keep my lips hydrated all day. And the reason I put that on at this point is because I don't like my lips to be super glossy with the finished look. So this kind of like just gets to work while I'm doing everything else, because the lips is kind of like the last thing that you do. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my Rhode Barrier Restore Cream. Now, as much as hydration is really important, you also don't want to over hydrate where it's just too thick and too much for your skin. We're gonna let that sink in again, and then we're gonna move on to primer. And then we're starting off the makeup. Now, the order of what you're applying in terms of your makeup is actually quite important because it really can dictate how it looks right at the end, and also how it lasts throughout the day. And this makes a huge difference to just the longevity of your makeup and how it looks later on in the day. Like it can end up looking a little bit kind of like, you know, like it's been there for 24 hours, or it can end up looking like, you know what, you only just applied it a little while ago and it's still kind of like semi-matte and it's looking good. So it really does make a difference. So make sure you hydrate properly to ensure that your foundation doesn't look cakey and it doesn't look kind of like bumpy underneath. It really helps to kind of smooth the skin a little bit. Everything that we're doing is a helping hand to make sure that your makeup looks absolutely flawless at the end. Next, we're applying primer. I'm using my Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Primer. It's the blurring one, and I'm going to apply a little kind of like just like a pea-sized amount on my finger, and we're gonna apply this on areas that you feel you want that kind of nice smoothing effect, and also just to blur those areas. And I usually do it on the T-zone, but then along the cheeks. That's my main area. You can apply it where you feel that you need it. Like if you feel that usually your makeup ends up looking a little bit too oily, or it looks like you can see the kind of like bumpiness in your skin, apply it on those areas, or you could just apply it everywhere, just avoid your eye area. Okay, now I'm gonna use my concealer. I'm using my Guerlain Terracotta Concealer in 2.5N. This is a bit of a nightmare to kind of open because last time I did it, it just went in my eye. So you've got to be careful because it just pops out. So I'm going to now apply this to my eyelids, and I'm going to explain why this is the first step of makeup application. So we're just going to do a couple of dots here. You want to get your beauty blender, and you're just going to press into the area. It's the first place we're just going to get out of the way. And I've noticed that a lot of people do this kind of right at the end, which if that's your preference, that's fine. But I'm just kind of showing you what makes everything so much easier. And it's a bit more of a methodical way of doing things. And there's a reason for it. It really does make your life easier once you get the hang of it. Now we've got a nice kind of like veil of color on the eyelids. This is us basically priming our eyelids. Now I've got my Laura Mercier powder puff. I've got a little bit of loose powder here, which is my Makeup Forever Ultra HD powder in light banana. And I've got some powder on the puff, and I am just gonna basically press. I'm gonna press, and you've got to make sure that you do this immediately, or you make sure you get rid of the creases first. I've got my Real Techniques brush, and I'm just gonna dust away this powder very lightly. There's nothing on the brush. Now the eyelids are done. You can see that it's covered up those dark kind of circles. Well, they're not circles on the eyelids, but it's the darkness there. But it's given us that really nice even finish, and it's kind of made it much easier for the rest of the face to be done, because now you just don't have this random area which is quite dark. So the eyelids is usually the first thing that I get done, because it gives me an idea of how much more I can go with everything else. And plus, you know, if I want to do the eye makeup before my foundation, which I'm going to explain in a second, then it makes it a lot easier. Now, if you are going to be doing a heavy eye look, like a smoky eye look, or any kind of eye look where you're using a lot of eyeshadow, like powder eyeshadow, then I would suggest doing that now before you move on to the next step. Because if you were to do that right at the end, you're going to drop some on your foundation, and the base isn't going to look as flawless anymore. So my advice would be, if you are doing an eye look which includes powder eyeshadows which are quite dark, then I would suggest doing it first before you do the rest of your base. At this point is where you would do the eye makeup. Now, I'm not really going to be using too much kind of powder eyeshadow. I am going to be using more kind of cream eyeshadow. I'm going to use a little bit of powder eyeshadow, but it's not a lot, and it's going to stick really well to the cream eyeshadow, so it makes it a lot easier to do at the end. So I'm going to be doing my base first, and then we're going to be doing the eye makeup. And I'm going to explain along the way as I'm doing the eye makeup why this makes it easier doing it in this way. So next up, we're going to be getting on with the base. So let's actually apply the concealer wherever we need it on the face first. Now you might be asking yourself, why are you not putting your foundation on first? Why are you doing your concealer? Well, that's because I use the underpainting technique, and I do that most of the time. Sometimes I switch it up. So you may see videos of mine where I've put the foundation on first and then I've put the concealer on. And the reason for that is because it's just to change it up so that it gives you guys variety. And I am also very aware that a lot of you don't necessarily use the same technique. So I don't want to just use the same technique over and over and over again. Otherwise, what are you learning from me, right? So I do change it up a little bit, and I don't want you guys to think, well, yeah, but you said you do this, but now you're doing this. It's purely because I want to appeal to everyone. And there is no kind of like, I would say, right or wrong way of doing it. It's about figuring out why you do it that way and what works for you, and this works for me. So I'm going to be going in with my concealer, and I am going to be applying this on all different areas of the face just to lift and give me that coverage. Now the first place I'm going to apply this is just along the under eye area, and a little lift there and there and here. We're going to just put a little bit here. Not really a lot there, to be honest. And I don't really apply any on the nose anymore because I like that my freckles to come through. We're also going to use a dark concealer. This is my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in Cocoa. Again, not going to put it on my nose, but I probably will put a little bit here. I've got my Hollywood complexion brush, and I am just going to buff this in all these little areas, but I am going to use a sponge on my under eye area. Just I'm going to switch over the brush so that I'm using the small part. Let's use the sponge for this. And we're keeping on the same area just to make sure that obviously we get that coverage. Okay, I'm going to use my Hollywood complexion brush from Charlotte Tilbury. This is a different one because I like using two, one for the light shade, one for the dark shade. And now I'm just going to buff this in. And the reason I do it this way, by the way, is because this gives me a really nice soft focus effect. So the foundation I use a foundation which is quite kind of like medium coverage, light to medium coverage, but also, you know, I wouldn't focus on the coverage so much. I would just focus on how much of it you apply. You know, if you're going to apply like a lot, then obviously you're going to get full coverage, even if you use like a medium coverage foundation, I feel. You really need to just focus on how much you're applying. Like apply a small amount on top of this. Okay, everything's buffed in. It's not so perfect, but it is a lot softer than what it looked when I first applied it. Okay, now I'm going to go in with my foundation. I'm using my Christian Louboutin foundation. Love this foundation, absolutely amazing. This is 35 NO, which is neutral olive. And I'm gonna put a little bit of this on the back of my hand. And I'm only using a very small amount of this foundation. I've got my sponge here and I'm just kind of doing that. Very, very small amount of foundation, guys. And this is where I'm just gonna lightly buff this into my skin. So I always do the forehead first. And then I go ahead onto the under eye area. And then just over the nose. I always kind of like go over the dark areas last so that I'm not kind of like mixing it up. And then I drag under the jawline. That way you don't get any kind of like marks there, you know, like it doesn't look like you're wearing a mask. And then lastly, I go over this dark area here. And can you see, you can still see it coming through. It's not fully covered it up. So that's why you want to go for either a light coverage foundation or medium coverage, but apply a lot less. I'm super happy with how this looks now. At this point, if you want to apply any kind of like cream blush, this is when you would apply it. So you can apply it before your foundation as well, by the way, because that also classes as like underpainting. But if you feel like actually I want to apply it over, you can do. I'm going to be applying my Swede Air Blush Cream, and this is in Sun Touch. I'm just going to get the back of a sponge, go over my blush like that, and then I'm just going to go over where I want to apply that blush. This is a really nice kind of peachy color. This is such a nice blush, it really is. It just isn't overly fluid, so it sits so well on top. And I feel like it almost kind of like dries to powder, and it kind of blurs the area that you've applied it. Now this is where you want to go in with your powder to set everything. This is it. We're going to lock everything in now. Everything we've applied is going to be locked in with this powder. We're going to go back into the same powder we used. I've got my Laura Mercier powder puff. We're going to dip it into the powder to really get an even amount on this puff. We're going to make sure we have no creases on the under eye area, because that is the first area we're going to be setting. So let's just go right under the eye area there. Now this part, we've done the eye area, right? That's the first part I would do. You don't have to leave it there for ages, by the way. Honestly, you can dust it off immediately if you want to, if that means that you get less of that kind of cakey effect there or dryness there. You can just dust it off immediately, or you can just apply your powder with a brush. Now, if you want a super matte finish, I would press this everywhere on the face. If you are not too fussed about a super matte finish and you want it more to kind of be more kind of, not dewy, but like not just natural, then I would dust it on with a brush. So I'm gonna go over with a puff because I kind of want it to be matte, and I just very lightly apply the powder everywhere. This is where you get a big powder brush. This is my veil brush, and we're going to just dust all of the powder off, and then we get our smaller brush and just dust away from the under eye area. Now the next step for me is doing my brows, and the reason I do my brows next is because it gives me an idea of how my face is framed. So it gives me an idea of how much eye makeup I want to put on, how much kind of like bronzer, everything else. Because that's why they say the brows, they frame the face. So it gives you a much better idea of what route, what direction you want to go with everything else that you apply. I'm going to apply my Urban Decay Slick Day, which is like this gel, and I'm just going to brush my hairs up there. This is the only eye gel. I think actually the Anastasia Beverly Hills one is the same. It doesn't actually go white. You know, you don't get that horrible white chalky finish. This is where you want to just let that dry a little bit, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so I've got my Urban Decay Brow Blade in Brunette Betty. I'm just going to draw in some kind of hair strokes. Then I'm going to use the other side of it, which is a pencil. So you can see here where I've kind of like applied the hair strokes, and then I'm just going to shape the rest of the brow. Now I'm going to do the eyes, and I'm using my Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize in Star Gold. Obviously you can do whatever eye makeup you want, but like I said, it would change depending on the eye makeup you're doing. If you're doing an eyeliner look, you can do that now. If you are doing a kind of like dark eye using a lot of powder eyeshadow, I would do that before you did your base, so that you can clean up anything that's fallen and then do your base and everything looks flawless. I can guarantee, unless you are extremely careful, have so much practice in this, you are going to end up dropping it, and it just makes everything look a bit messy, and it doesn't look clean if you do your dark eye makeup look at the end. So I would suggest only doing a look now, you know, that isn't going to be dropping. So I'm using a cream eyeshadow, and I usually just get it on my finger and then just swirl it around on the back of my hand, and then I just pat. And I'm just literally just patting all over. And because I'm using a color that isn't kind of like crazy dark, it's much easier to do it this way around when you've already got your base done. And it also allows you to kind of see what it looks like with the base done. That's why I would only ever do eye makeup before your base if it is a really heavy kind of like eye using a lot of powder eyeshadow. I think at this point you can use a brush if you want, especially if you want to apply some of this on the lower lash line. I'm using my Refa 13 brush, and I'm just going to get some of this cream eyeshadow on the brush, and I'm just going to go into my lower lashes. Now, if you want to apply a dark eyeshadow after and you're applying it on something like a cream eyeshadow, I feel like you can get away with it because you're not kind of dusting it onto dry skin. It sticks so well to cream eyeshadow that you don't worry as much about anything falling. So I'm going to apply a little bit of just a dark, like a medium brown eyeshadow. I'm using my Makeup by Mario Master Mattes, the Neutrals palette, and I'm gonna use shade 8. 8 is what I'm gonna use. And I'm actually gonna use that same brush. Obviously I've cleaned it first. Always dust the excess from the brush on a tissue first. And I'm just gonna basically darken just this end area here. And like I said, because we've got a cream eyeshadow on, the powder sticks to it immediately, so you don't have to worry about any kind of fallout. Whereas if you're not using a cream eyeshadow and you're just using dark browns, then I would suggest doing that before you do your base. Just darkening the end of my, kind of like the last quarter of the eye, kind of going over that whole area and then dragging out a bit. Use your finger if you want to kind of like just blend it outwards a bit without it kind of like, just if it makes it easier. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. Just going to apply a little bit of it here. Just going to open up the center of my eye a bit. Now let's very quickly curl these lashes. You know, I've tried so many eyelash curlers and these are still the best. Like, these are my Kevyn Aucoin lash curlers. They do not pinch your eye at all. I've used other eyelash curlers like Tweezerman, like the Velour Lashes one, and they pinch. Sometimes they pinch and it's really kind of, it feels awful. So I'm just letting you know that I've tried a lot of them and these are the best ones. Okay, YSL Lash Clash mascara, because obviously that is my current favorite mascara. So my eyes are done. As you can see, the face is slowly coming together. And at this point, this gives you a really good indication as to how much bronzer you can go in with, or powder contour, whatever you use. Personally, with this kind of look, I would only go in with a bronzer now. And I've got a good amount of blush kind of peeping through. Like, I don't feel like I need any more than that, and I'm happy with that. So it really is down to what your preference is in terms of how much you apply. But I'm gonna go in with a bronzer, my Fenty Beauty Sunstalker bronzer in Shady Biz and my Fenty 200 brush, and I'm just gonna contour my nose real quick, and I just kind of like use the tip of the brush and I do the sides of the bridge of the nose, and then I just do the tip. Okay, I'm gonna use a different bronzer for this. This is my YSL All Hours Hyper Bronze in 04 and my Hourglass Veil brush. And I'm just gonna do this along the perimeter of the face. Just kind of like bronze the edges of my face. And it just gives a bit more dimension to the face. Okay, so remember we applied my lip kind of like plumper right at the beginning. So it's really toned down now, it's not so glossy. I'm just gonna get a tissue and blot it once more. There's hardly anything in there now because it's kind of like my lips have just kind of like got hold of all the hydration and taken it all in. I'm gonna use my Charlotte Tilbury Lip Treat in Iconic Nude. I want a really messy lip line. There you go. And then I'm using my Violet France Bissou, don't know how you say that, balm. It's a sheer matte lipstick and it's in the shade Callison. I don't know how you say that, but it's a really nice kind of reddish brown. But I like kind of patting it on and it gives this kind of like, it's so comfortable, firstly, and secondly it gives this kind of like almost like slight stain to the lip, which isn't, it's more red than brown, but it's like a, it looks like a stain, but it's a really natural fleshy color. I love it. Such a nice color. I might even go a little bit more with that because I feel like I can. Love it. One of my favorite lipsticks. So that is kind of like done. If you want to apply a highlighter, you can. So this would be where you apply a kind of powder highlighter, and I'll just quickly add a little bit. I'll put my Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Multi Glow Beautifying All Over Glow Highlighter. Again, don't know why the names are so long. This is the shade Dream Light. This is my Sigma F33 brush. Just gonna very lightly skim over the peaks of my cheekbone. That's it, that's all I want. And that is the correct order of applying your makeup. Obviously I've explained as we've gone along like where you would apply certain things. If you want to use a setting spray at this point, you totally can, it's up to you. I don't usually use setting sprays, but I personally feel like the way that I've applied it means that it's going to last long, it looks fresh, it looks kind of flawless, and it actually doesn't end up looking cakey or heavy throughout the day, and I don't have a problem with how it lasts on my skin. So I don't feel like I need to use a setting spray, but you totally can if you want to. I just want to very quickly add that I do have an online publication called The Beauty Breakfast Club, which is a really, really nice community. You guys have the options of 2 different versions of it. You've got one which is free, which gives you access to most of it. The other one is paid, which only costs you around a coffee a month, and we get to chat. Like there's basically like it's like a chat group, so we just chat in a group. It's really, really fun. It's a chat room, and it's also going to give you an extra newsletter a week and some other perks, so you might want to sign on and go join our community there. Also, I have a vlog channel, which obviously is all vlogs and behind the scenes, so you might want to head over there, Nina Ubhi Vlogs. And yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video today. I really enjoyed doing it, and I wanted to kind of share with you why I apply makeup in this order, and hopefully it all makes sense to you. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comments box below, and don't forget that all the products are listed in my description as well, so you just need to head over, click on the link, and it'll take you straight to the product and you can go grab yours. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so that you never miss any of my future videos. Until the next video, take care, and I'll see you soon.